I wanted to do a little recap of my sensuality practice, which I was doing on Instagram. It's been just a little while since I filmed my last video, but I'll have you know that I'm not abandoning this channel for good, and I still plan to jump back into more YouTube videos. I'm just sort of refiguring out what my process is, but I'm sort of using my old process, and if it still works, then I have it figured out. So I decided to embark on a 22-day period where I would do a sensual act every day, and my goal sort of in the big picture was to explore each sense. So if you kind of want a primer on sensuality, or you have a preconceived notion of what it is and what I'm talking about, I would strongly encourage you to check out my other video talking about sensuality, because that's where I really go into describing what it is and what it means to me and how I like to utilize it in my life. So for those of you who already follow me on Instagram who had exposure to this, the reason I chose 22 days was a bit arbitrary. 22 is a very meaningful number for me, and it would round me out towards the end of the month where I started it, which I didn't even realize would be to the day of the last day of the month of August. So that was pretty cool because I wasn't even really aware of that math. But I wanted to reconnect with myself after going through some challenges, and then also showcase what a sensuality practice might look like and how I engage in that. So to give a really short synopsis or recap, sensuality is connecting with the world with our five senses, and we are given these senses to explore this world. And my feeling is that there is so much depth and beauty that we can uncover through that kind of exploration of self, and we can use our senses as sort of signposts or guideposts to discovering the things that we're interested in, that we're passionate about, that we're good at, that we're not so into. And as a big picture, it can kind of create this roadmap or treasure map of what our gifts are, what our purpose is, who we are, and what we want to gravitate towards. Also, I have the window open a bit, and the breeze is just everything right now. I mean, I didn't explore my senses through these 22 days of sensuality in any kind of order. I kind of just wanted to connect with my sensuality each day and organically and intuitively come up with some way to do that. So every day something either came up naturally, or I had to really sit and decide, what sense do I want to connect with today, and what can I do to bring that about? And so I was documenting each day through that journey and sharing what sense I connected with and what experience and insight I had from it. And that's where a lot of the treasure lies, is in the present experience itself of connecting that way, and then reflecting on it later and looking at what sort of insights that gave you. And then I also posted slides kind of delving into each sense and writing about how we can connect with that sense in a more meaningful way, and different ways that we might abuse it or neglect it, and ways that we can make it our center focus again. If you want to see a recap of the whole journey and all that information, I have a highlight on my Instagram where I cataloged all of that. So I'm offering one-on-one sensuality sessions that are described on my website. And the idea with those is a bit more structured, where each week we would explore one of the senses at a time, have you go through different experiences to connect with that sense, talk about it at the end of the week. And at the end of the whole journey, my goal is to then create a beautifully designed PDF that kind of summarizes your sensual roadmap, so to speak. So I'm actually going to create that for myself. I will definitely share that when it's done, to give you a sense of what that end product would be. And then I wanted to just come on here and talk about what it was like and what sort of feelings I have at the end of that experience and what it felt like and what kind of additional healing and growth I had from it. So the first point I'll say is basically just like having a consistent recurring practice, period, not even necessarily related to sensuality, but in the context of this for sensuality. It's so gratifying, and at the beginning of that journey, I think I went through something that everybody would go through, where you sort of question like, can I actually commit to 22 days? Am I going to come up with enough things to do? What if there's days I really don't feel like it? And so there's often these sort of roadblocks that stop you from even beginning the practice before you've started. I'll say that going through it, there were of course days where I was like, I have no idea what I'm gonna do to connect with my sensuality today, or days where I was not in the mood, I was not feeling good, and I didn't want to do it. And I would say that those are the days where the practice actually mattered most, because it reeled me back in, it brought me back to that baseline, and I tended to have the most care and compassion for myself in those moments when I did finally do the practice, and did it in a way that was so attentive to what I needed in that moment. So if I was having a bad day, it wasn't a question of, do I just throw this practice away, but what sense can I connect with, and what activity can I do to soothe myself in this moment, or to bring about emotions that I need to release, or to connect with whatever it is that I need to connect to. Like I mentioned, I've had a pretty intense year or so, or 2 years, or maybe more. And part of it was, am I emotionally strong enough or capable of doing this practice? And again, that's the funny thing when it comes to self-care, because sometimes we just feel like we don't have the strength for self-care, when self-care is what will provide us that strength. And it's exactly what we need. So I would say watch the resistance to the practice and to committing to any kind of practice, period, and just step through it. Like, don't let it stop you from engaging in something, because the biggest reward is in going ahead with it anyway and just trying it out and seeing. And worst case scenario, if a day went by where I didn't do the practice, I wouldn't beat myself up for it, because you just jump on the bandwagon the next day. And I will say at the conclusion of it, I miss it, which is kind of funny, because there's no reason I can't continue it every day or whenever I want, but I just really enjoyed the public facing side of connecting with something like that, and then sharing what it meant to me and having it inspire the rest of you, because anybody that connected with me through that journey, or shared what they did that day, or how they were inspired to connect with a sense that day, that brought me so much joy. So thank you for that, for anybody that took part and reached out in an active way. So because I didn't focus on the practice in like an ordered way of focusing on a sense per week kind of thing, it was actually really interesting to notice what senses I was ignoring and what senses I was prioritizing. So I would say the ones I gravitated to most were hearing, sight, and touch to a degree. The two that I didn't really connect with were smell. No, you know what? Touch was one I didn't really connect with. Yeah, the ones I neglected more were taste. Okay, so I'm just looking at my highlight, and so I highly neglected taste. And it's funny because taste is the last slide that I've left for my like informative slides during the experience. As I'm filming this video, I haven't even written that one yet. What's interesting about the senses that we connect with versus neglect is to figure out why. There could be something blocking us from connecting with that particular sense, maybe because we abuse it more than the others, or we don't have good experiences with it. I think for something like sight, I'm just very connected to aesthetics and what I love to see and what brings me joy and peace that way. Same thing with smell, same thing with hearing. Touch and taste would be the two that I had more trouble with, and I think that's because touch is so difficult to remove from the concept of somebody else and to expand on the different experiences you can have with it, even though there's like a multitude of experiences you can have with touch that have nothing to do with another human being. And then taste, I think, is probably because it's so connected to food and eating. At least for me, there's so much like mindless eating that I do, or just non-present eating where I'm watching screens while I eat. So like I mentioned, a really gratifying part of this process at the end of it is to take all my learnings and findings and create this beautiful resulting snapshot and summary of what my gifts are, what came out of exploring all the senses, and how that can be this like treasure map or roadmap of who I am. Some insights that I've had are, not all of them are new to me because they're things I already knew I was strongly connected with, but connecting with beautiful sight is something that is so important to me, and it makes sense in the context of who I am and what I do for a living. What's funny about that is that I am nearsighted and I have such a high prescription. Whatever prescription you think is high, I'll beat it. But when I was younger, I used to see this alternative holistic like eye coach. Something that always stuck with me that she used to say was that a flip side into considering why so many of us are nearsighted, or as children we just become, it's called myopic, like we have myopia when we're nearsighted, is because there's something we don't want to see apart from the obvious physical and genetic and environmental reasons that our vision goes. I did feel when I was younger like I was hiding and I didn't want to be seen and I didn't want to see things really clearly. But I realized how much it means to me to beautify my space, to beautify and adorn myself, which doesn't just mean like putting makeup on and getting dressed up every day, because there's days where I don't care to do that. Enjoying expressing myself uniquely and creatively and sensually with the way I carry myself. I'm also very aware through the whole process of sensuality how much nature means to me and plays a role in my well-being and groundedness and sense of calm and balance. Like taking in small doses of nature wherever I can, whether it's like listening to soundscapes or really enjoying a thunderstorm when it happens, which they don't happen enough. Gardening, having flowers or like plants in my place. And then I am very moved by and sensitive to sound. Music has a huge effect on me, on my writing, on the way I feel, on me being able to channel certain emotions. So being selective of the kind of genre of music I listen to and when is a huge part, you know. And there's times where I'm not up for music at all and I just want soundscapes or I want silence, or like right now I'm loving the sound of the breeze in between the construction and city stuff. So there are so many endless ways that these experiences with our senses and our sensuality overall can like open the box of who we are and what our gifts are and what we're into and what we want to pursue in life. And what's beautiful is it's going to be like a unique mosaic for every single person. I think that's what's most enticing to me about this work, is like my version of sensuality is going to be different from yours. And there are things that we will have in common, but there might be so many things that differ. And that's so cool. Another thing I'll say about the practice of sensuality and my 22 days with it is that it's so intimately linked to mindfulness and presence. That's part of where a lot of the beauty and benefit, you know, comes from, is connecting with life, being grounded in this body with these senses and connecting with the external world and bringing it into our internal world. It's like meditating through your body, through your senses. It can also serve as such a gateway to untapping blocked emotions or memories or traumas that we need to explore. Like I said, there were days that were harder where I didn't feel like connecting with a sense or my sensuality overall, but what I did ended up releasing something that I really needed to release or process, or served as a reminder for me about something beautiful in me that I can connect with whenever I want. So, the last thing I'll say about my experience is that through this bit of time that I've been working with sensuality already, I just want to reiterate or emphasize how non gendered this work is. It's a practice that's open to everybody, just like meditation, just like spirituality. I think that sensuality does have a stigma, or just like it's quite gendered to be a feminine and female trait. And you know, women are regarded as more sensual beings by society. And I mean, we are like beautiful. But it would be amazing to see a world where more men and like male identified people are tapping into sensuality and discovering that practice for themselves, because it's a beautiful practice and it brings about so much self-awareness and self-celebration and all of that good stuff. So I hope you feel like you got a good sense of what my 22 days of sensuality was like. If you are new to this whole concept and you just came across my video, I discussed it on my Instagram, and I have a highlight on my Instagram where it catalogs the whole thing. Feel free to ask me any questions about it, share your own experiences, your thoughts and reflections. If you choose to engage in a practice of your own, I would love to know that and support you through that process. And yeah, thank you for tuning in and listening.